Hello, welcome back to my channel, Freed from Cult Life. My name is Tim, and I was born and raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And in this video today, I have an exciting interview with a former Jehovah's Witness. I'm going to not give you too much. I'm going to let her tell her story. But definitely, you might want to pay attention. There are a lot of facts in here about the history of the religion. And also, if you watched the last video about Jehovah's Witnesses marriage, how to wake up a spouse, good example in this interview too on how to go about doing that. So let's get to it, y'all. Welcome back to Freed from Cult Life. My name is Tim, and today we're going to be interviewing KC. I feel like it's very important. The more we talk about this religion that a lot of us consider to be a cult, that the more we talk about it and share our stories, the more people can resonate with it and hopefully help them, a lot of current witnesses, maybe to even wake up, but also to help people who have left to find some comfort in knowing that they're not by themselves. There is a lot of us who have been through quite a lot leaving this religion. So I'm not going to hold up any further. I want to introduce KC, and thank you, KC, for being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me today. So I'm just going to tell my story and start from the beginning.
Let her
I
rip.
was, yeah, I was born in, and my mother's side is I'm third generation on my mother's side and second generation with my father. Uh, so we grew up, Jehovah's Witnesses, and when I was growing up, I, felt like this was the truth. And it's definitely not always easy to follow, obviously, all of the rules, but it didn't mean I didn't believe. And when I got a little older, I was always tried to be a rule follower, but I struggled with some of the rules that they have. Like, I never really enjoyed going out in field service. Really enjoyed. I didn't enjoy commenting. I always had a hard time with that because I'm very shy. So commenting just made my heart race, and I had a hard time with that. And then, of course, you get reprimanded for not commenting.
Right.
I was a regular pioneer for a while too, and I did some auxiliary pioneering as well. And I went to pioneer school when I was like, um, I think I was like 19. And I know a lot of people always say, "Oh, pioneer school was so amazing. I just loved it." And I did not have that uh, situation. I did not enjoy it. And I don't know if I just didn't like it. I don't know. It was just bad timing and I didn't enjoy it. Um, and then, but you just go through the
Yeah.
everything. You just try to check all the to-do list. Did you study today? Are you going to comment? Did you go out and field surface enough and all of those things? And I never could fulfill every single thing to the T. Like, I did not enjoy reading any of the literature, but I tried, and I didn't enjoy it. Like, every time I would open a Watchtower and I would be like, okay, I'm going to read the Watchtower study article for Sunday, and I would always have questions because I'm a very curious person. So I would always be questioning things. And I would start reading and I would be like, this doesn't make any sense. And, or that doesn't make sense. Or why don't they do this? Or why don't they do that? And I always remember my parents saying that I asked too many questions. But that's how you learn, is you ask questions. But again, it wasn't because I didn't believe in Jehovah or in the way we were taught. It was just I was curious about these other questions I wasn't getting answers to. But I still, went through the motions and everything, still believing in it. And then married a witness, later got divorced after many years. And then when I was remarrying, my current husband was never a Jehovah's Witness. So I was like, you need to study with the witnesses, it's really important to me. And he was like, okay, sure, no big deal. Like, if
Yeah.
this makes you happy, I'll do it. And he just thought Jehovah's Witnesses were just another, Christian denomination. But when the elders started coming over and studying with him, he was like, what in the world is this?
Mm.
So he was like, okay, this is a cult, but he didn't tell me that. So he would just throw some tidbits at me, like, did you know that the organization joined the UN? I was like, what? No, they would never do that. Well, here's proof. And he gave me a copy of the letter proving that they had joined the, what is that, NGO? Uh,
NGO, yeah, non-governmental
yeah,
organization, yeah.
right. So they had joined that part of the UN. And I read the letter and I was in shock. I was like, what? And I couldn't believe it. And then, of course, it was just like it was one thing after the other after the other. It was that plus then it was 1914. And then at first I was trying to I never could understand it anyways. I always had trouble understanding it. I definitely couldn't explain it. And then he was showing me, well, here is where it doesn't add up. And then, of course, all of the ex witnesses have figured out that the fall of Jerusalem happened in like 587 or so BC and not 607. And so, if the starting date is wrong, then it's not going to end up in 1914, right? With the 2,520 years or whatever. And so whenever he showed me that, I was like, okay, 1914 isn't adding up. And then it was also like if you I studied in this book, You Can Live Forever in Paradise on Earth growing up. And then one of the things we were always told is that this generation of 1914 shall not pass away and the end will come. And so, like it says here, let's see if I can, sorry, I'm trying to get the camera right. If you can
Yeah,
see that.
I remember that picture.
Yeah, I remember. It says some of the generation living in 1914 will see the end of the system of things and survive it.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it says so here, and then,
Yeah,
they go with after 100 years go by, 2014, they decided, oh, well, it's the overlapping generation now, and that doesn't make any sense. And so just trying to carry on this 1914 nonsense. But when history proves the date to be wrong to begin with Babylon and Jerusalem, then why continue on with this 1914 fiasco?
yeah,
But they know that if they don't, they have to keep it going, because if they don't, their whole religion will fall, because a religion is based on that. But
yeah,
that was a big thing for me, of course, and I was like, okay, so the UN really bothered me because they talked such trash about them for all those years, and that they're the whore of Babylon and a false religion and blah, blah, blah. And then 1914, uh, I would say those are the two biggest things for me. After that, I felt like I was being lied to. And I just was like, well, if what else are they lying about? And
yeah,
so then I just decided to, do some more research. And I also liked reading other Bibles to compare, because, you can see we got the New World Translation, but other Bibles are very different, and researching the New World Translation and how it came about. That's an interesting story, though. I'll send you down a rabbit hole. Um, have you ever heard of Johannes Graber?
um, I'm not sure. He's not the guy that
Okay.
has something to do with John 1:1, is it? That's not him.
About what?
With John 1:1, that's not the guy that has something to do
Yeah,
with it is?
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
so Johannes Graber was an ex-Catholic. He used his wife as a spirit medium to translate
Right.
certain verses of the Bible. And
Right.
one of the verses that they used was John 1:1,
That's right.
where so and then Jehovah's Witnesses, the organization, I think it was like Norse time, they decided to go with Johannes Graber's translations, and they did acknowledge him in some of their writings. I did read it, like maybe acknowledgments. I don't know exactly where it was at, but I'll have to look it up. It's still on their website. I think they might have taken it down, but they like to cover up their history as much as possible. So I was like, okay, that is not good. There's lots of little things that just don't add up. When you start reading and researching more and more things, then you realize that this isn't right. And pretty much all of the ex-witnesses have similar stories with the UN, with
Hmm.
1914, and the Australian Royal Commission, of course, where um, Jeffrey Jackson just point blank said, no, we are not uh, Jehovah's mouthpiece. Well, that would be presumptuous of us, is what he said.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we are to believe that you are the mouthpiece of God, but you just said that you aren't. I mean, he didn't lie. He told
Right.
the truth,
Yeah.
but to in court, but he was lying to all the rest of the witnesses who believe that they are the mouthpiece of God. So that's another problem. And it just adds up, one thing after another after another. And then I did listen to, I have Raymond Franz. He actually had gone online and told some of
Yeah.
his story. And then I've got his book, Crisis of Conscience. Um, and it's good. It's good information for anyone who's questioning their beliefs in this religion to read his book, because if you have the one and only governing body member to ever leave, then why would a governing body member leave? They are supposed to be anointed by Holy Spirit, guided by Holy Spirit, the mouthpiece of Jehovah God, and you're going to leave? There's
Right.
something wrong with this. So, which means that you aren't teaching the truth. And I
You
also
know what I
got this.
found?
Oh,
Oh, go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, no,
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say real quick, what was big about that is that I remember hearing witnesses always in the publications, they would brag about the Bible and the transparency of the Bible writers and how they showed the negative side of things and the positive side, like with the striking the rock. Was it Moses who struck the rock and got water out, and how he messed up, he couldn't enter the promised land? But it's funny, they will not talk about their negative. They're not transparent about their negative side, such as you brought up Jeffrey Jackson at the Royal Commission. To me, that's big news. Why wouldn't that be on jwnews.org, on their news site? Or the governing body member leaving, full transparency would say, we had one that left because of this reason. So it's funny how they just don't they talk about the Bible writers being transparent, but yet themselves they're not transparent about anything negative is kind of like blocked away. Sorry to interrupt you. Go
Exactly.
ahead.
Oh, no, that's great. Thank you. I agree, but I guess they're embarrassed of the truth, and they know. I believe that the governing body members that are in charge today know what's going on. They know it's not true, and they knowingly are misleading people. And that is wrong. And the people are not to blame. They don't know any better, but the leaders do. And they should be held accountable for
No
all the
doubt.
lives that are ruined over this. I mean, families are broken up over it. Some people unalive themselves. I think that's why we have to say it on YouTube. And, I felt that way, where I didn't want to continue on before this. I mean, just as a witness, I felt there were times where I didn't feel worthy, because that's the way they make you feel. And then coming to realize I was lied to, I compare it to a grieving process. And I tell people that if they're new, either physically and mentally questioning, or if they're physically and mentally out, or they're still not sure, um, that it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. When you realize you've been lied to, you're going to be upset about it. First, the 5 stages of grieving is bargaining. I don't know which one comes first. I think it's like uh,
The
it's
denial.
bargaining, like, well, no, that's not true. Yeah, denial. Yeah, denial. No, that's not true. Bargaining. Well, maybe it should be this way. And then let's see, another one would be, I mean, for me, anger. Like, I was stuck in anger for a while, and that was annoying to me. I was like, I'm sick of being angry. And of course, sadness. I was very sad, very upset, crying. And eventually you get to acceptance is where you want to be. So it
Yeah.
takes time. I mean, it could take a couple of years to get there. I was questioning my beliefs and all of this in 2017, and officially by the beginning of 2018, I didn't believe in it anymore. Um, but I know there are some people who might take some things with them. Like, it's kind of hard to just like say no to everything you learned. I don't necessarily think you have to reject all of it, but um, most of the stuff, I mean, the only thing that maybe you don't need to reject, or maybe like stories in the Bible that might have really happened, like King David really was a king,
Right. Right.
you know, historically accurate things here. But I mean, I actually had a hard time too, like, debating whether or not I should celebrate any holidays. And
Mm,
so what I came to the conclusion one day that it's all in your intentions. So if my intention is to do good unto others, or unto myself, then it's okay to do. And so that's how I felt comfortable eventually. Like, okay, it's okay to celebrate the holidays because I am not harming anyone and I'm not harming myself. So that's the way I see it. And then I actually got this book. I don't see too many people talk about this book. It's called 30 Years a Watchtower Slave. And that was,
okay. Yeah.
yeah. And this would have been during Rutherford's time when he was first taking over. And it's about um, a man who was in Bethel during that time. And this is when Rutherford started telling people, okay, you got to get rid of that beard. And he started really cracking down
Yeah.
a little more on controlling people. So this is before Nor's, well, Nor wasn't, he hadn't taken over, but it was during
Okay.
Rutherford's time. So it's a good book for anyone who might be
Okay.
interested. Yeah. 30
So
Years of
what
Watch.
is what
Mhm.
someone wrote that around the time it explains the time of Rutherford,
Yes.
the timeline.
So yeah, this was, let me see. I mean, it was written later in 1956, but the
Okay.
time period would have been like 19 19 third 20s and 30s.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I have to check that out. I didn't hear about that
It's
one.
by yeah, by William Schnell. I'm sure you
Okay.
could probably get it on Amazon or something, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll do that. And if I can, what I'll try to do is find the link to that on Amazon and I'll put it in the description too. So if anybody wanna
Yeah.
check it out, they can go to and check it out. I want to ask you when your husband uh was studying with the brothers and he was like, what is this stuff going on? And he looked up information. Did he look it up without your knowledge? He did that on his own and then brought it to you?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay,
And that is something I would say, like, for anyone who maybe is awake and wants to share with their JW family, you have to do it very carefully. You have to throw tidbits. He would just give me a little bit of information at a time and let me think about it. And I might not agreed, I might have been upset, I might have, but then it's there and I'm like, well, I cannot deny evidence. I cannot deny proof. That is a fact. You can't just say, you can't reject something that is true once it's shown to you. So that's the way he did it with me, and it worked. So it's just throw little tidbits at a time and then walk away, come back to it later, throw a little more tidbits. And something he asked me once was, what do you think is more important? What's written in the Watchtower or what's written in the Bible? And I
Mm,
said,
mm,
equal.
mm.
And they're both the
Oh, you
same,
said
and that's the
equal.
way, yeah, that's what I thought.
Right, right,
As
right.
a witness,
Yep,
like, well, it's the
yep.
same. What it's written in the Watchtower is the same and just as valuable as what is written in the Bible. And he was like, and he didn't say nothing, he just wanted to hear what I thought. Um, and but then when he would, tell me all the evidence, he gathered up a bunch of information and shared it with me. And then started doing some research as well. And so that's just how it came about. And I woke up. Honestly,
Yeah,
it didn't
that's
take
yeah,
that much time. It was
yeah.
literally like, I would say it was just a few months of him working on it and him studying with the elders, realizing what was going on, sharing with me information, and um, and then uh, by the end of the year, I was still like, well, maybe, I mean, okay, just one more sign. I just need one more sign to know that I'm making the right decision on no longer believing in this. And I definitely felt like by the end of the year, of the year 2017, I was like, okay, I am definitely feeling like this is not God's organization. So
Okay. Do you
yeah,
the fact that you say you grew up, you were always questioning things already, not like in the opposition way, but in a curious way, right? You were
yeah,
always
more curious.
questioning, yeah, more on the
Yeah.
curious side. And it's something because um I remember in the book, What Does the Bible Really Teach? I remember in the first chapter, they say in there, you have to ask questions. That's how you learn. You ask questions. Um, and the fact that you say you never really liked field service, you really didn't like commenting at meetings. Um, do you think in hindsight that maybe if you never really liked it, but you only did it because it's all you knew?
Uh, yes, that's probably true. I didn't like doing any of it, but I did it because I felt obligated to. Like,
Hmm.
XJW critical thinker always talks about living in the fog, fear, obligation, guilt, and that's what drove me. But I also did believe in what I was taught as far as like Jehovah and his organization and everything, Armageddon should be coming any minute now. I mean,
Right.
I definitely truly believed that, but I didn't like all the obligations I had to do.
Yeah.
I just didn't
Yeah. It's a
enjoy
lot of
it.
there's a lot of them. I feel like I could never catch up either. Like you can never catch up on the readings and the
Yeah.
studying. Um,
No,
when
right.
your
And I'd miss some
husband was,
meetings and
yeah, and missing meetings. Oh, don't miss a meeting.
yeah,
When your
I
husband,
got, I was like, oh,
how did it go with the elders when obviously he's studying with them, he's figuring stuff out. How did the elders react? Did they try to continue to study? Did he end it, or like how did that go? Like, like
so he would ask them questions. He was very, very good about being respectful, never overstepping his boundaries.
okay.
Um, but he would ask them questions so that they would be thinking
Mm.
about, that's a good question. I don't really have the answer to that. And so he had shared some things with them, but he was careful about it. Uh, I'm not really sure what all he asked them. I'll have to ask him, but it was, I do know that that he told them about like the fall of Jerusalem. I'm pretty sure he did tell them about that. And he's like, look, the Jews, this is Jewish history. The Jews wrote down their history. Why don't we find out what the Jews have to say about it? It is their history. And they, you know how it is. It's just like, put those blinders on. I don't want to hear what you have to say.
Hmm.
No, you're scaring me. This is God. This can't be true because we have the truth. If you have that mentality, it's hard for you to accept or even listen to something else. But he did try to share some things with them. He was really careful, but he would be like, so you just want me to read what's in this book and regurgitate what the answers are in the book? Like
Yeah.
question and
Yeah.
answer. He's like, well, that how am I supposed to like give my own thoughts on this? I'm just supposed to regurgitate information. And that's something about the organization. You know why they do constant question answer? Because it will stick in your brain. It's like a broken record. So if it's stuck in your head all the time, that's mind control. So it's actually a mind control technique, which Rutherford was really smart.
That
You
that
have to, yeah.
that's a good point. I never thought about that because I can remember like looking at the question. I wanted to just get the study finished. So I would look at the question and the words in the question, I would look for those words in the paragraph. You know what I mean? It'd be easy to find, but like you said, that is a technique. I can see how that can be a technique to um programming technique to just keep repeating it over and over. Yeah, I
That's
can
what it
see
is.
that.
So there are programming techniques which Rutherford and Frederick Franz, I'm
Mhm.
not sure how to say his last name. I always said Franz. And then Nathan Noor, the three of them were really like good with mind control techniques. And that was one of them, like question and answer. The other is constantly keeping you busy. So you got to go to meetings 3 times a week initially, right? So it was like, Sundays, maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then you got to go out and field service. So if you're always busy, 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 and you're not going to go to college, then you're not going to question your beliefs. And they have control over you more because no one else is going to come in and distract you. Like college, for example. And that's why they don't like people to go to college. They want to keep you dumbed down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not to say that people are dumb. It's just that that type of situation keeps you from being able to progress mentally.
No, I agree 100%. Not going to college or getting higher learning is definitely a way to keep people from. You got to think if you grow up and go to high school, once you get out of high school, if you leave and go somewhere where there's a whole new world, a college campus or something like that, and you're taking classes, you're going to be more, whatever classes you take, you're going to think more. You're going to have time to think more. You won't be as busy on that wheel, running on that wheel with meetings and service and studying. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think COVID and all the Zoom meetings probably didn't help the organization because I think a lot of people started looking up other things, and they weren't going out in service, and they weren't going to the meetings in person. So yeah,
Yeah, COVID was big, I believe, in waking up a lot of people, me being one of them. I had a couple things happen before, but I believe you're right. People got to sit down and think for a minute. They had time to pause.
yeah, it's true. But so back to my husband, whenever he would share some information with the elders, and one time, I don't know what he shared with this one elder, but it scared him enough to where he yelled out, Jehovah! and
Really?
and then yeah, and then my husband goes, Jehovah! He said it back to him. And then the elder just kind of was like, all right, let's go on to the next paragraph. He was just
Wow.
stumped.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
bet
But
he
you
had
know
them.
what's interesting? Huh?
No, I say I bet he
Oh,
had them
but
thinking.
Yes. And you know what's interesting about that? That elder who, um, you know, we felt sorry for him. He was a nice man. He'd been through a lot, made a lot of bad decisions in his life, like a lot of witnesses do. And he him and his wife were poor, and we gave them some money and um, helped them out with what we could, even though he knew that my husband wasn't going to convert. But it actually, in the end, all these things that my husband shared with the elder made him question his own beliefs. And in the end, he's passed away now. But before he died, he was questioning. He was thinking this wasn't the truth. But it's hard to leave when you have a lot of family in it, and he did. So you
Mm,
kind of
mm.
are in this limbo place where you don't really know what to do. So, it was,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, it was good that he was able to get him to question his beliefs, but
Yeah.
um, at the same time, I'm not. We didn't stay in touch with him, and we weren't really sure like what he ended up doing, but we had heard that he was not sure of his beliefs.
Wow. Well, look at that. Wow, that's amazing. Look, they trying to get him and kind of find out, before he passes, he end up questions on, like, you know what? And it's something too, because if witnesses, current witnesses, and even some may be watching, if you really look at things objectively and not biased, and really look at, you got to think like what you said, 607 BCE, that takes care of the 1914 doctrine, and the scripture, what John 1:1. You got to think, why are Jehovah's Witnesses the only ones to use John 1:1 that way? Or why are they the only ones who believe in 607 BCE?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and something else, that Jehovah's Witnesses, as far as I know, are the only ones that believe Jesus died on a torture stake.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
because
They do.
he, yeah, and again, going back to history, just look at history. History will tell you he died Roman execution style. During that time period, crucifixion was how they executed criminals. And he wasn't the only one being crucified. There were other, the two other guys with him, but they thought the other two guys were up on a torture stake too. So it's incorrect. And oh, here's a little tidbit about that. Rutherford came up with that whole torture stake thing, and it was to create shock value. When you go knock on
Mm,
someone's door and you say, "Hey, guess what? Jesus didn't die on a cross." Really? Wow. Well, tell me more about this. So
right.
it was like a way to uh, strike your curiosity, because he was using, those Greek words that they try to say, well, it's staros and not starus, and staros supposedly meaning an upright stake, and starus meaning cross. But I actually looked up in the concordance to find out whether or not they were correct on this whole torture stake thing. And I looked up the words, and they in the Greek, and it is cross. And
Mm,
again, just going back to history, anyways, you don't even
yep.
need a concordance.
Yeah, just study history, like you said. So now that, and that's a good point too. I believe Joe Winston, they really want to be different from everyone else, so they'll come up with these kind of things to be unique, and so people are like, what? I didn't know that. And but I want to ask you, now that you've obviously uh, left Jehovah's Witnesses, do what are your current beliefs? Like, you and your husband, you share the same beliefs? Are you non-denominational? Are you Christian, or like how do you feel now?
So I've always considered myself a truth seeker, because I'm very curious, questioning things all the time, wanting to know answers to things. And I think that we are limited in how much truth we can get in this life. But we have the same beliefs, actually. Yeah, we do. We are Christians, but we don't like follow all of the typical Christian beliefs. Like we just
Okay.
believe that Jesus is the Lord and Savior, and all the other stuff, as far as like hell and all that, I think that's just different interpretations for different people. So, but
Okay.
yeah, but we don't discriminate on any other belief systems, because I know a lot of ex-witnesses, they have lots of different beliefs. Some are atheists, some are agnostic,
Yep.
some are spiritual, and some are Christian. And so that's fine. I just think you just gotta do what you're comfortable with.
I agree. I agree. And I found that to be the case where a lot of people leave. Like you said, they become various things. A lot become atheists or agnostic. They in some state, some become Christian. But I like the view that you guys have of just, you can be whatever you want to believe. You know what I mean? I think my personal belief is that be a good person, be like what you're supposed to be. You know what I mean? If you treat others like you want
Yeah.
to be treated, the golden rule, I think it kind of covers almost every belief system. Um, you
Yep,
know,
yep, definitely.
but yeah, thanks for sharing your story though. I mean, that's an amazing story, and I'm glad that you got through that because you briefly mentioned that you were in a low place. You were in a low place, and now where you're at now is obviously a better place. And um, you know,
Mhm.
how does your outlook on life feel now compared to before when you thought Armageddon would be here like any minute?
Yeah, I mean, before I thought, well, I wasn't going to grow old in this system, and then when I've realized now I'm like, well, I am going to grow old and I don't wanna. It's a little disappointing a little
Right,
bit. I'm just
right.
kidding. But it's disappointing that you're like, wow, I believe that and it's not true.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm glad to know that I do not have this mind control over me. I can make my own decisions, and I don't feel obligated to, "Oh, I got to go to the meetings. I got to do this. I got to do that for the organization." Um, and I focus on uh, what makes me happy. So I would
Yeah.
say it's definitely a weight off your shoulders for sure. And you don't, and oh, another thing is, everybody who's a witness is judgmental, right? So they just teach you to be that way. You got to snitch on your friends. And
Yeah.
so that was the one thing I noticed that improved with me is I'm not nearly as judgmental as I used to be. I don't judge people like I did. I mean, because like as soon as you walk in the Kingdom Hall, everybody's talking about you. It always made me feel so uncomfortable just to go to the Kingdom Hall, and you just felt like this gloom. I don't know if you felt that way, but just going to the Kingdom Hall, I felt like people were talking about me. And I know one thing for me is I was like chronically late.
Oh yeah. They talking about you. They talking about you if you later. That
Yeah. So I had trouble with that, and I was like, ah, darn, I hate that I'm gonna be late. Because everybody's gonna talk about you. Or if you get up and go to the bathroom, everybody's looking at you. But as far as like how I feel now, yeah, much better. I feel a weight lifted off my shoulders. I feel like I can do what I want to do, and I don't have to live for the organization anymore. So I do feel like it's much more freeing. I have more free time, and I don't have this burden on my shoulders anymore.
that's definitely what it felt
Mhm.
like. Uh, was that there was a burden, like you had to do something. You didn't have your own time for yourself. You know what I mean? It definitely is a great feeling. You you have a YouTube channel that you share
Uh,
other interviews too, and that's what I love, and that's what I want to do more of too is letting people know that you're not by yourself, sharing stories. So I'll put a link in the description, but you can tell everyone what is your uh,
mhm.
YouTube channel.
Yeah, so my channel is called Facts on JW, and it's, you know, fairly new channel as well. And so we're just on here like doing interviews and doing a little bit of history with the beginnings of Jehovah's Witnesses and with the present, and just anything and everything related to Jehovah's Witnesses. And I love to
I
hear
like
other
that
people's
name.
stories as well. Just-
Okay.
you
Yeah, I
should
like
watch.
that name. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Good. Oh yeah, you should watch the very first video that we did. It was called Cult of Doom, and it's really good because it just puts all of the, it's like in a movie kind of, and it just puts everything all together and all the different pictures and everything, Armageddon coming, and it's kind of scary, you know? And that's another thing. As a kid, you know, thinking about this Armageddon thing, it was scary to me. I definitely had some bad dreams having to read that book. I don't have it here. It's the Revelation book. We had to study that thing like two or three
Yeah.
times, and my brother and I both had bad dreams, and I think it was from that because it's kind of a scary book, you know, and then
When you
constantly
look at
feeling
those
like
images, when you
I'm
look at
dead.
those images in
Mhm.
there on Revelation book, it's fearful. I mean, come on. Some of the images they have of
Yeah,
these horses with thorn with a scorpion tail and just, it's weird.
yeah, exactly. So I definitely felt afraid. And then like anytime you heard a thunderstorm, you're like, oh man, this is could be Armageddon, you know, or
Yes. 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 This is it.
and then when yeah, the Twin Towers hit, or the during the 9/11 thing, I thought for sure the end was going to come, you know, after that happened, but it didn't. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. It is,
yeah,
I didn't know it before. A lot of us didn't know it growing up, though. I see you got the My Book of Bible Stories back there, too. I remember that book as a kid.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
studied that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just
I like
something that,
pictures.
yeah, all those images and pictures and not realizing it, but later on as an adult, realizing like they kept you in a state of fear and anxiety growing up. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? And it's not
yeah.
healthy for your development and things like that. So, me personally, and a lot of ex-witnesses feel like you behind in life because you didn't develop normally because you was always looking out for Armageddon. Like you said, that lightning hit too hard. That was Jehovah.
That's true. Oh, and that's another thing. Anxiety. I definitely had a lot of problems with that, and uh, I'm still dealing with it, but it's a lot better.
Okay.
Something that happened that I had a real struggle with was, I call it obsessive thought disorder. Like I would obsess on like one thing, and I just could not get it out of my head, and
Mm,
then I would let that rest and I'd move on to something else that I would obsessively think about. And so I'm told this was a way of dealing with anxiety, was
mm,
obsessive thoughts, obsessive thinking. And and it was all anxiety due to the religion. I do not have that problem anymore. So I know it was because of the
good.
religion that made me feel that way.
Wow. I never heard of that, but I definitely can believe that. That's something. It's funny how the process, and like you said, I like what you brought up earlier, that for those who may be feeling like they just woke up and they're in one of those grieving stages, that you want to get to acceptance. But in the meantime, getting there, it does take a process. It's a process because you just can't believe this is really happening to you. You thought you had it. You thought you had hit the lotto and you were going to live in paradise. And you find out that it's all a big fable.
Mhm. It's true. And I still have family in it, so uh, you know, I
How is
don't
that?
want well, oh, it's fine. It's I just, you know, I don't want them to know what I'm up to, of course.
Right.
But as long as we just, you know, don't say anything, everything's fine. Let
Yeah. Yeah.
like let them believe I'm just inactive and that's all. So,
Okay. I wanted to ask you that too. You answered it for me. So you are inactive. Yep, just inactive, faded.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
And I like to keep it that way if I can.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's the downside when you have to leave something and make a decision, but yet you don't really want family to know too much because of the consequences. And that's a sign of a cult.
Yep. Any religion that shuns is a cult, is high control. And they're not, Jehovah's Witnesses aren't the only ones. You have Scientology, the Orthodox Jews, the Amish. Um, Somebody was telling me s- some other religion that I haven't heard of, but there's a handful out there that do. They
Hmm.
all have one thing in common, and they shun.
Hmm.
So that tells you that you're being controlled. I mean, that should be another clue that you're in a cult. Like, but you can't use that word because that word itself scares people off. I know. I
Yeah.
remember people telling me, "Hey, well, I remember this one lady. Uh, she was from Russia." And I was like, "So what do you know about Jehovah's Witnesses? What have you heard?" And this is when I was a witness. She's like, "Oh, we were told it's a cult." And I was like, "No, it's not." you know? Because you don't want to
Yeah.
believe that's true. So you can't use that word with Jehovah's Witnesses or people who are in control, high control groups. You
Yeah.
just have to like ask them questions to make them think. Like, do you think that it's right to, you know, shun someone just because they don't believe the same as you? I
Yeah.
mean, just it should be common sense.
Yeah, that's a good one too. And for people who are in those high control groups, a lot of them, especially Jehovah's Witnesses, they believe in Jesus. And so using Jesus as an example sometimes, like, did Jesus shun anybody in the Bible?
Right, right.
He
That's
didn't,
right.
so um you're right. I like the approach. You have to do that. It was hard to do that in the beginning for myself, but a lot of people probably can benefit from your story. I do thank you for being here. Thanks for sharing it. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, this is great. So again, you guys check out Facts. I like that name too, Facts on JW. That's the name of it, right?
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that because I like the website jwfacts.com. That helped me a lot too. That website was huge
Yes,
too.
I know. I look up information on there all the time. That
Yeah,
guy has done amazing research.
for sure. And he keeps it updated. That's what I like too. It
Yeah.
stays updated. Yeah, yeah,
It's true. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
thank you for
thank you for
having
being
me.
here. Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for being here too. And look, let's continue to let people know about this religion. So, thanks for being here, and talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Wow, what an interview. That was an amazing story from KC. I hope you were able to benefit from it, to pick some tips up and maybe some facts. And if you want to know more, please go to her channel. I will have the description in the bottom, Facts on JW. I will have her channel link, so please go visit her channel and support her channel. And wow, what a story, right? A lot of people that we don't know, we end up meeting people who've left the witnesses, and you find out that wow, what you went through was hard and rough, and somebody else also went through some rough times too. But to be on the other side of it now, where you've accepted it and now you're trying to help others wake up, helps confirms that I made the right decision when starting this channel. I didn't know what to expect. My goal is really just to help people wake up, and a source of, and also for me as an outlet too. So I hopefully I'm helping someone else out there. And if you'd like to share your story again, please reach out to me. And until next time, I'll see y'all later.